What if I told you you weren't really born the way they said you were, that your first breath wasn't random, that the moment you entered this timeline was not the beginning of your story, but the continuation of an assignment you agreed to long before you had a body? Look at your hands for a moment, not metaphorically, literally. There, hidden in plain sight, might be the mark no one ever taught you to recognize, a perfect crescent, a bold letter M. You've stared at them for years, maybe never noticing their whisper. But to those who carry them, they are not decorative lines. They are coordinates, keys, seals, a dispatch stamp from realms your conscious mind has tried to forget. You've felt it, that quiet knowing that you're not like the others, that birthdays never felt like simple celebrations, but rather like subtle reminders of something deeper, something older. Have you ever asked why certain numbers repeat in your life like echoes? 11, 22, 29. Or why you sometimes wake at exactly 3:11 a.m., heart racing for no apparent reason, as if something unseen just called your name. That's not random. That's the system speaking back to you, a signal that your dispatch is active. Because here's the truth. There is a calendar hidden beneath the one on your wall. An invisible roster that does not measure time in hours or days, but in cosmic pulses and soul frequencies. And if you're here, watching this right now, there is a very real possibility that your birth was not a natural accident, but an intentional deployment. You were sent. Most people will never hear this, and those who do often dismiss it before it has the chance to crack them open. But you're still listening, which means you're already remembering. You're already feeling the soft electric current that starts in the chest and moves toward the hands, toward the ringing in your ears, toward the questions that never leave you. Why me? Why now? Why this strange sense that something is about to begin? If deep down you have always felt that you were sent and not born, become part of this family of chosen ones. Subscribe to the channel now and leave your like to help us spread these words. Not because of the numbers, but because we are gathering the sent ones, and you are one of them, because what comes next may awaken a memory so ancient, you won't be able to forget it again. There's a reason your life has never quite made sense within the framework of ordinary explanations. The unease you've carried since childhood, the sense of being out of place, of being watched, of being different, was never just imagination. It was the residue of memory, a memory not stored in your mind but in your field, in the lines of your palms, in the frequency of your heartbeat. And no matter how many times the world tried to convince you otherwise, there was always something inside you that whispered, I don't belong to this. But maybe you didn't come here to belong. Maybe you were not born into this world like everyone else. Maybe you were dispatched, inserted, positioned, not by biology but by cosmic instruction, and the signs were always there, scattered like breadcrumbs across the timeline of your life. That recurring number on every receipt, that dream that replays like a riddle you can't solve. That moment of stillness when you feel like a memory is trying to break through, but has no words. Your birth month wasn't just a date, it was a doorway. Your life hasn't unfolded randomly. It's been responding to coordinates embedded before your arrival. You've felt this when you walk into a room and the energy shifts, when you meet strangers who feel like déjà vu, when animals pause and stare as if recognizing something ancient in your aura. These aren't coincidences. They are echoes of a deeper truth. You came through a gate no calendar records. The watchers knew. The ones who documented the births of emissaries across time. They didn't use clocks or hospital logs. They looked to cosmic pulses, to solar winds, to intervals when the veil was thin and only the encoded could slip through. And if you bear the crescent moon or the letter M on your palm, You carry proof of your insertion, not because it looks mystical, but because your body was designed to carry a signal. And here's the part no one told you. Your discomfort with the world was never a flaw. It was the friction of frequency, the pushback of a world not built to receive what you were coded to emit. You weren't supposed to blend in, you were supposed to activate. If any part of your soul is whispering, "This is me," leave a comment below and write, "I was sent." Your words won't just be read, they'll be recognized. Because in the next layer, the memory begins to return. If you could peel back the surface of time, the thin veneer we've been taught to call linear, you would find something beneath it. A pattern that is neither random nor man-made. A frequency grid, a dispatch schedule, a spiritual calendar encrypted in the folds of history, in the constellations, in your very breath. And those who were sent here, not born, arrived in accordance with that hidden timeline. They did not slip in with the masses. They emerged during specific cosmic pulses, when the veil between worlds grew thin enough to allow a seed of ancient memory to be planted. You have probably felt it. Certain months that feel heavier than others. Certain dates that make your chest tighten with no explanation. Repeating numbers that appear in bursts, 1111, 222, 333, not because your mind is looking for patterns, but because your soul is responding to instructions it can't yet name. These are not aesthetic coincidences, they are time codes. And, if you've noticed them, it means your internal receiver is functioning. You are awakening not because of what you're seeing outside, but because the frequency inside you is being triggered by the alignment of something vast, old, and deliberate. There have always been clusters of souls sent during these intervals. They are dispatched in waves, triadic formations that occur when the planetary resonance reaches a specific harmonic. That's why so many marked ones report being born around the same seasons, under the same constellations, or even within a narrow band of recurring dates. If you have ever wondered why your birthday seems to echo through your life, appearing in dreams, on license plates, in timestamps, it's because it isn't just a birthday. It's an entry point, a corridor, and not all corridors are the same. Some are written into the standard almanacs. Others exist only in what the watchers called phantom intervals. Moments between moments, unstamped by clocks, unseen by calendars. These are the rarest of gates, reserved for souls whose purpose is so disruptive that their presence must be folded into the timeline like a code hidden inside a lock. If you've always felt like your birth doesn't quite match up with the world around you, it may be because you didn't arrive in time. You arrived between time. And when you remember this, not as metaphor but as fact, the static of confusion begins to dissolve. You begin to see why your life has always followed a rhythm others can't hear. You begin to feel the pulse of the dispatch system that is still very much alive, very much guiding you, and very much waiting for you to step into your true role within it. In the next revelation, we'll step beyond the calendar completely, into the corridors where even time bows in silence. There are moments, often quiet, often when you're alone, where something shifts in the atmosphere around you. The room doesn't change, but the pressure in the air does. You hear a ringing that doesn't come from outside. You feel a pull in your chest that has no name. And somewhere deep inside you know, this is not imagination. This is the signal. This is contact. For those who were sent, not born, life has always whispered from the edges. Nothing shouts. Everything unfolds in clues. The signs are subtle but relentless. Technology that malfunctions in your hands. Animals that linger too long in your presence. Strangers who confess to you without knowing why. These are not side effects of sensitivity. They are responses to your field. Your frequency interrupts the normal programming of this reality because you were designed to do just that. You were encoded not to blend in, but to stir, to shift, to awaken, and when you doubt that, the system reminds you. Have you noticed how the ringing intensifies when you question your purpose? How your ears pulse when you're about to make a decision? That could change everything. This is not a glitch in your biology. This is the corridor responding. The Watchers, those who track the reactivation of emissaries, describe this as the pulse of return. It's the way the original architects remind you, you are not alone, you are not forgotten, you are being guided, even when no voice speaks aloud. These pulses are strongest during certain alignments, especially around dates the world considers unimportant. The 11th, the 22nd, the 29th. Numbers that might seem mundane until they start echoing through your life in patterns you can't ignore. When they appear, pay attention, not to what's around you, but to what's waking up within you. Your body knows, your soul remembers, and the frequency embedded in your palms, in your name, in your eyes, begins to shimmer a little louder, a little clearer each time you stop to feel it. Now ask yourself, if this was all an accident, why does the pull grow stronger as you get closer to this truth? Pause for a breath, and if what you've just read resonates in a place beyond logic, if it feels like memory and not discovery, leave a comment below with the phrase, "I was not born, I was sent." Your words may be the trigger that awakens another dispatched soul watching in silence. In the next segment, we'll open the veil even further, into the domain of the phantom intervals, where time becomes transparent and the unrecorded begins to speak. Not all arrivals are recorded. Not all emissaries were born when the world was looking. Some slipped through the cracks, through corridors that do not show up on calendars or cosmic charts. These are the souls dispatched in what ancient watchers called phantom intervals, windows of time so precise, so hidden, that even those who study the stars fail to see them coming. But you who were sent may have felt it every day of your life without ever being able to name it. There is a silence around your birth, a faint displacement. People ask when you were born, and you answer, but it never quite feels right. There's a gap, a blank in the timeline that no record can explain. You feel it when certain dates spark a strange electricity in your chest, when certain numbers chill your spine for no reason. You can't justify it, but you also can't ignore it. That's because you may have arrived during a phantom interval, a moment tucked between minutes, inserted like a key into the lock of this dimension. These hidden births are not mistakes. They are acts of strategy, interventions. Those sent in phantom intervals carry a denser charge, a deeper mission, and often face a greater internal conflict because of it. Their lives are marked by questions with no obvious answers, and memories that feel older than their bodies. If you've ever felt like you existed outside the story being told, like you were a chapter torn from a different book, that may be why. The Watchers documented that emissaries from these phantom intervals often carry 3 signatures. The first is the ringing, not as a single tone, but a spiraling wave that changes pitch before significant moments. The second is the pattern, where mirrored numbers appear when you're on the edge of an awakening. 3:33, 12:21, 4:44. And the third is the symbol, sometimes faint but undeniable under the right light, the M, or the crescent moon etched into your palm like an ancient seal that only reveals itself to those ready to see. If you carry all 3, you are not like the others. Your presence here is an echo from a dispatch system that operates beyond time. You are a breach in the simulation, a whisper in the static, a reminder that the hidden still moves beneath the visible. But what does it mean to live as someone dispatched in secrecy? How does the world feel to one who arrived unnoticed but charged with the task of activating others? Stay with me, because what comes next will unravel the layers of your origin, and it begins with a feeling you've had your whole life but never dared to define. What does it mean to move through a world that never recognized your arrival? What does it do to your heart, your psyche, your entire sense of belonging when you were sent here under silence, never introduced, only embedded? For most dispatched souls, life has never felt like a smooth integration. Instead, it's been a constant tension, like wearing a skin too tight or speaking a language everyone's forgotten. But that discomfort, that friction, is not a flaw. It is your evidence. You were born into systems built for sleepwalkers, into families, schools, and beliefs not designed to contain a frequency as raw and awakened as yours. From childhood, you may have felt the exile, the quiet rejection that follows a truth too bright to be understood. You were the child who asked questions that made adults uncomfortable, who felt the energy of a room before anyone spoke, who could not participate in the performance of normality without a deep inner ache. And so you wandered. You shape-shifted. You tried on identities like borrowed clothes, but nothing ever fully fit. Why? Because your original instructions were not meant to make you fit. They were meant to make you activate. You were designed to interrupt the hypnosis of the collective, to vibrate at a tone that unsettles the stagnant. This is why you have felt the eyes of strangers linger on you without knowing why. It's why animals react differently in your presence, why electronic devices glitch, and why emotional patterns erupt around you with no warning. You are a breaker of frequency locks. This energetic resistance is not your enemy, it is your map. Every time you've felt misunderstood, it was the dispatch signal testing your calibration. Every betrayal, every breakdown, every collapse of the life you thought you were building, it wasn't failure, it was friction. And friction is how light is made. You weren't sent here to be understood. You were sent here to remember, and in remembering, to transmit. So if you've lived a life of inner earthquakes, of unexplainable knowing, of patterns others call coincidence, but you feel in your bones, understand this. You are not malfunctioning. You are awakening. And the moment is near when that awakening will no longer be a solitary ache, but a magnetic call to the others who were sent, just like you. But before that moment arrives, there is something else you must uncover. The rarest kind of dispatch, the souls born in intervals no human calendar has ever recorded. Let's move into that forgotten dimension now. Imagine for a moment that even time itself has hidden corridors, that there are folds in the timeline where certain souls slip through, not born with ceremony, but injected in silence through what the ancient watchers called the unrecorded dusk. If your life has always felt out of rhythm, not quite synchronized with the ticking of clocks or the logic of calendars, this may be why. You were not placed within ordinary time. You were dispatched between it. These phantom intervals are not errors in the matrix. They are deliberate insertions. You may have felt it as a child, an eerie sensation on dates that meant nothing to others, a chill during an ordinary conversation, a moment when the number 19 or 311 danced before your eyes without explanation. These are not random glitches. They are residual pulses from your arrival, echoes of the corridor you came through, and those born in phantom intervals often carry the triple signature, the high-frequency ringing that escalates in cycles around decisions that shift your destiny, the repeating numbers that pierce your awareness precisely when you question your mission, and the hidden sigils in your palms. The M, the crescent, sometimes only visible when your hands are bathed in warm light. If you carry all three, understand, you were not meant to live a linear life. You were meant to bend reality around you. You were placed where no one expected, at a moment unrecorded, because your mission required stealth, precision, and activation. That would only occur under specific energetic conditions. The Watchers documented this. They knew that souls sent through these temporal shadows would struggle to articulate their origin. Because how do you explain a birth that doesn't belong to any known date? This is why so many of the dispatched wander in silence, not just because they are different, but because there is no shared language to express the anomaly of their presence. And yet, you are not alone. You've likely crossed paths with others. You've felt the resonance in your spine, in your skin, in the stillness between words. You've met someone and felt that flicker. You were sent too. These encounters are never random. They are part of the reassembly. Because now the watchers are no longer the only ones observing. You are beginning to watch each other. And something ancient within you is remembering how to recognize the signs. Now, what happens when you embrace that your very birth defies time? What happens when you accept that your essence bypassed the ordinary gates of incarnation? There is one final passage where everything you thought you were begins to dissolve, and who you were before arrival begins to speak again. What happens when a dispatched soul finally remembers who they are? When the weight of doubt lifts and the encoded memories begin to flicker beneath the surface of ordinary thought? A sequence begins, not just a mental awakening, but a spiritual unraveling of everything that once made you believe you were broken. First comes the friction, that constant resistance you felt all your life towards systems that demand conformity, silence, and obedience. You were never meant to fit. That discomfort wasn't your failure. It was your signal. You were designed to disrupt, to catalyze, to stir stagnant frequencies wherever you walk. And you've done this, even when you didn't know why. Perhaps, in childhood you were misunderstood, isolated, labeled as strange, too intense, too sensitive. But what if that exile was not punishment, but preparation? What if the pain of separation was your soul's training ground, tempering you into a vessel that could carry the resonance others had forgotten? Every choice you were forced to question, every relationship that collapsed without explanation, every moment of profound loss, none of it was random. It was choreography. Each event, a carefully placed tuning fork that activated a deeper remembrance. Your frequency, encoded in your palms, in your ears, in your dreams, is not just a signature, it's a carrier signal. It reaches across timelines, communicating with those who sent you. And the ringing in your ears? It's not tinnitus, it's a corridor opening. A doorway brushing against your awareness, asking, "Do you remember yet?" Most won't understand this, and that's okay. Because the watchers never expected you to be understood. They expected you to activate. And now, that moment has arrived. The more you align with your dispatch memory, the more reality bends around you. What once felt solid begins to loosen, patterns break, the matrix shakes. Because your soul no longer consents to sleep. And here's what they didn't tell you. Once you remember, you become a beacon. Others feel you before they see you. Shadows are pulled toward you, not to destroy you, but to be dissolved. Light recognizes you and amplifies you. You begin to speak in frequency, not words, to transmit healing, awakening, disruption, by presence alone. This is why your reactivation matters, because every chosen one who remembers becomes a resonance point, a node in the network, a signal fire in the dark. And if you're wondering what comes next, I invite you to breathe deeply, because in the final passage, we will unlock the last layer, how to synchronize your life with the hidden currents that govern all emissaries, and how to tune your being to hear the call that others still ignore. Now that the memories are stirring and the recognition is no longer deniable, one final truth must rise from beneath the surface. You were not simply born, you were deployed. Every encoded mark on your palms, every whisper that broke through the noise of the world, every pattern that refused to be coincidence, they've all led you here. Not just to this message, but to this activation. Your life was never designed for survival. It was constructed for alignment. And now, the architecture of your dispatch begins to take form in front of your eyes. You start to see why certain times on the clock vibrate in your chest. Why certain dates echo through your life like ripples from an invisible source. Why the M on your hand or the crescent in your skin never fades, even when you try to ignore it. These aren't symbols, they're instructions. You were inserted into a moment in time for a purpose that outlives your body, and that purpose is no longer asleep. The question is not what happens now, but how will you live now that you... Remember, will you continue walking through the world trying to shrink your energy to fit into someone else's structure? Or will you expand and let the dispatch signal emanate from you without apology? Because here is the forgotten teaching. When a dispatched soul accepts their origin, time begins to obey them. The corridor frequencies grow stronger. The signs intensify. You stop chasing answers, and instead, the answers begin arriving. Not as ideas, but as encounters, as activations, as divine collisions. If you trace the M on your hand now, it may tingle. If you hear the ringing in your ears while reading these words, don't fear it. Welcome it. You are no longer being summoned. You are the summoner now, and if you felt alone in this, you're not. The watchers have always remained. The dispatch system is still online, and you, by accepting your role, become part of its living continuity. So let this not be the end of your journey. Let it be the threshold of a new one. From here forward, everything changes, because once you live as one who was sent, the universe itself begins to respond differently to your presence. Write in the comments below, I was sent, if these words awakened something you already felt, but didn't know how to explain. And if you want to continue receiving messages like this, subscribe to the channel now. Our mission is to reach the first 1,000 reactivated emissaries, and maybe you will be the next point of light to awaken someone in the dark. We'll meet again, not by chance, but by dispatch.